buttons. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Second Amendment Foundation. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. We're going to be starting the recording process here in just a second. I need to connect up everything that needs to be connected, and half of that cannot happen until after Facebook actually takes the live video, which is why you don't just get us doing the regular start of the show. So that is why we kind of have a kind of herky-jerky start. But now that that is all connected, I need to get social hooked up. And that is almost done. And that is now done. Is my staff ready? I should probably pull up show notes so I know what I'm talking about.
Your staff looks all ready.
My staff is more prepared than the host is. I'm telling you.
It's just a look.
You know the saying of like the duck on water. On top it looks all serene, and below the water paddling like hell. But that's kind of what I do. Anyway.
We've got the serene part, you've got the paddling part, I think is how this is going.
All right. Okay. So I think on my end, I'm about ready to push the button that has Masada Ayub talking to us. Everybody else ready to go? Okay. Masada Ayub, everybody, in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masada Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, March 21st, 2022. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm John Richardson, and on tonight's show we talk with Lauren Snyder about being told to stay home behind closed doors by an arrogant Arizona legislator.
Yeah, arrogant. I'm Amanda Suffolk, and we are going to talk about what we are hearing, which is reports, not official yet, but reports that the governor of Indiana signed constitutional carry. Can we say number 24, baby? Number 24.
24, baby. Number 24. I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about a criminal who jumped a 6-foot fence only to expire in a yard in Minneapolis. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 617 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it's Monday night at 6 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters. That means it's time for the Polite Society podcast. John, it's been a couple of weeks since you've been on, man. What's been up with you lately?
Well, I'm sorry I missed last week. I'm having to study for a licensing exam that my employer insists I've got to take, even though my financial planning certification exempts me from needing the license in any state where I'm registered. Go figure. Big corporations. By the way, Indiana governor did sign the bill. It is official. I found. And the last thing I want to say is just kind of a warning for everyone who's a voting NRA member. If you haven't sent in your ballot yet, you need to know the ballot return envelope has a mistake that could return your vote to you as undeliverable. the +4 portion of the zip, the 4 digits after the zip code, is wrong, and the barcode under the address is also wrong because of that. And I suggest that you scratch out the +4 portion as well as the barcode, and then send in your ballot. Amanda?
Well, I have to say that I'd already mailed in mine, but I was mailing Rob's today when I saw your notice, and so I scratched out everything, and away it went. We'll see if mine comes back. And
let's hope not.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you'll have. I don't know. What's the deadline, John? Do we know what the deadline is?
May 8th.
Okay, so
May 8th.
we have time for the post office to dink around with it because it will go back. We'll just say. So on Wednesday, I have been invited by my state rep to go to hear the governor give the State of the State address. And so I'm going to be heading down to Columbus to actually see the governor in person and to hear what he has to say about how the state of Ohio, number 23, baby, how they're doing. So, Charlie, how about you?
I got to say, I mailed my ballot in a couple weeks ago, and I'm wondering if I will get my ballot back. It does seem like they sent different ballots to different states, or at least to different regions, because I know I've seen the names not in the same order before. Like somebody will put a picture of their ballot up, and I'll compare it to mine, and the names aren't the same. So I'm wondering if all of the ballots have been messed with. Anyway,
can I add to that? They do that. They do that because they say that voters that a lot of voters vote for like the first couple people that they see. So they only print a certain number with the top 5 guys, and then they move them to the end, and they keep rotating the people in the position on the ballot. So that's always by intent. The envelope is a completely different thing than moving the names around on the ballot.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Go back. Now you can.
All right. Well, now my weekly update. I've had a good week, and I've had a busy week. I had a class that I taught over the weekend, which went pretty well. And what's really nice is it was one of my friend's sons that took the class. I took a class last week at Patriot Firearm Training, and the class is called Before You Carry and Defend. And that was a nice, interesting class to take. And yesterday was the annual brunch for the Gun Owners Action League. So I got to see a lot of old 2A friends, and I got to see new people that I've become friends in the social media that I get to see in person for the first time. So that is always cool. And Paul, what has been happening with you and the Bullet?
Well, that's been it, is the Bullet. I've been doing a lot of the Bullet. We had a fantastic show this past weekend. We've had a full schedule this week, and just had a fantastic one with Amanda, although usually it's a Charlie day today. It was Amanda today. It'll be Charlie on Wednesday. It was a slow news day, but we talked about our guest, and we ran those videos, and man, the comments came in, and it was a good show. We're going to be, I expect tonight to be a lively show as well. For me, not a lot gun-wise going on this week. We did go get the motorcycles out. The annual rite of spring, the motorcycles come out of storage, and yeah, that has happened in the Lathrop household. And even though the first rainstorm hasn't happened, they both had to get a road test and then go get washed off to make sure that the road grime doesn't rust anything that isn't supposed to be rusted. But we had a 73-degree day yesterday, so spring fever hit.
Color me jelly, I tell ya. I
want to get a couple of comments in here real quick, because we're already getting comments in that are relevant. Pete over at Gun Websites, first thumb up. Have a great show. Thanks for checking in, Pete. And Roderick says, Indiana just passed HB 1296 Constitutional Carry. Yeah, it just got signed. That's what we're hearing. And John, Amanda said hearing it. John said confirmed it. Very cool. And Frank,
we're within 20 minutes of it kind of happening that we're here reporting it. So that is, here's the bullet. It packs a punch. No, wait. This is Polite Society podcast.
I have to wonder if maybe Indiana's Governor Holcomb doesn't watch the bullet and wasn't wondering if you and I weren't going to be hammering on him again, Amanda, because he was thinking, boy, we better get on this, or Amanda and Paul are just going to, load up on us. So
nice.
And then Frank says not to get off topic, but what happened to the rundown with Mike Piwowarski? I haven't seen the broadcast in weeks now. I think what happened is Facebook had an issue with them. I do know if you go to their website or if you go to OpsLens, you can still see their show.
I was doing some work and I tuned into the rundown and they were on the YouTube. So you should check them out on YouTube. I'm old enough to say the YouTube.
Yeah. It's more than just for cat videos.
There you go. I say the Google at work because it just makes them angry. It's so fun.
Nice, the Google machine.
Yes.
The Google.
Absolutely. All right, well, we've got our guest so patiently waiting for us, and folks, you are going. I think we're going to explode the internet. I really, really do. Our guest, Lauren Snyder, is patiently waiting for us. She testified in Arizona in a Senate hearing, and you're going to hear her testimony, and you're going to hear what this state senator said to her and the rest of us. And I hope we're going to go to break. When you're back, make sure you're sitting down. Do not be holding on to your cell phone watching us and standing up when we come back from break, because holy crap, just saying. We are going to go to break. We're going to hear from ACLDN, and fair warning, you got about a minute and a half to be sitting down. Hang on, everybody. Right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tueller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
Hey, and welcome back to the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining us today, Lauren Snyder. Lauren was brought to my attention by a mutual friend in the D.C. project. She was testifying in a committee hearing in the Arizona legislature. And Lauren, you are, if you don't mind, what I want to do, what was it? If I could ask you real quick, what was the committee hearing on in the Arizona legislature that you were testifying about?
So there were actually 2 bills that were going to be voted on that day, and the one in particular that we're going to be discussing is HB 2316. The premise of this would be that there are certain public buildings, public events, whatnot, that you are, even if you have your concealed carry, you're not allowed to carry, and this would pretty much expand to allow people with their concealed carry permit to legally carry in certain public areas and buildings without any sort of legal repercussions.
Okay, so what I would like to do first, what I want to bring up is your testimony, and then we'll ask you a few questions about your testimony. This testimony was on the 3rd of March, so it was just about 3 weeks ago. And fair warning for those of you who are watching live, yes, I understand there is a lot actually of background noise. That's the audio I got from this video. That's what I got from the state of Arizona. Here we go.
Hello, Lauren Snyder, Second Vice Chair, Arizona Libertarian Party, Chairman and committee members. I am speaking in favor of House Bill 2316. I have had my concealed carry permit for the last 10 years. The reason that I got my concealed carry is because I've been a victim of sexual assault. I've been a victim of random assault. I've been a victim of domestic abuse. And I refuse to be a victim again. I don't carry because I want to harm others. I carry because I don't want to be harmed. My right to defend myself shouldn't change simply because of my physical location. The last time that I was assaulted, I was in a public space, not allowed to carry my weapon. I was stalked by somebody, and he attempted to abduct me and tried to drag me to his vehicle. So because I was respecting the law and was defenseless, mind you, I'm differently abled. I don't have the privilege of running away and calling the cops and waiting for them to come. I have to defend myself.
30 seconds.
And that, I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Members, any questions?
Okay, and just to be clear, they give you 90 seconds to testify, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, because there were so many people wanting to speak either against or in favor of the bill, they limited each person to 1.5 minutes of testimony or speaking time.
Okay, and I was able to watch a good deal, the entire testimony. There's a couple hours of testimony, including yours, that are available on Arizona's website, and still today it's up. Most of the testimony was in favor, was it not?
I would say there was a good portion of testimony in favor, in particular because of the Arizona Citizens Defense League. They brought a lot of awareness to it. So did the Arizona chapter of the DC project. So we did have a pretty good amount of support, but there was also quite a few against the bill as well.
Okay, what I would like to do now is I want to jump forward a little bit in time, and shortly after your testimony, they took a vote, and each of the senators in this committee had a chance to speak as they were going to be giving their vote. And I want to center on this one particular senator's commentary and then his vote. It takes about 2 minutes. I'm going to run this and then we'll go back to you. Here we go. And again, there is a lot of background noise. I tried to clean up what I could, but we got what we got.
Mr. Chair, I've said it many times that I'm a gun owner. I'm a hunter, and I'm a proud Democrat. I don't need to carry my gun on me at all times to feel safe. I don't. I don't walk around, run around, and drive around worried about somebody's going to shoot me, or somebody's going to hurt me, or somebody's going to do whatever. Why even walk around at that point? Stay home, behind closed doors. I'm not going to worry. You can't be worrying about things all the time. I have enough to worry about being in these chambers. I mean, I hate to keep hearing about all this stuff. I mean, I understand that there's things that happen out in life. Man, you can sit there and stare at me all you want. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about things in general. And I do have daughters, and I do have a wife, and I do have a mother. There's a lot of things that happen in this world. But you can't run around scared all the time. I will say this. People will talk about how being safe, I don't feel that a room full of people, everyone with a gun, is going to make me feel safer. It's not going to make me feel safer, because people in this world are pretty crazy. They're pretty crazy out there. And you just don't know which one's losing their mind and which one's not. And some of them do come through these doors in these buildings. So, I mean, I do understand that, yeah, it is a right that we have. But some people just don't have that right. And some people just shouldn't have that right. And with that, I vote no.
All right, I want to say this real quickly. I have, at Gun Rights Policy Conference in Arizona, spoken in front of 1,100 people, the vast majority of those who were armed. And I will say this, I have never felt more safe in my life than speaking in front of 1,100 armed people. So, Senator, with all due respect, you need to see the video of the bullet that Amanda and I just did, and go put in your application at McDonald's. Do you want fries with that? Is waiting for you. That's the job you're qualified for. Lauren, back to you. What I was able to discern from this, and from speaking with Cheryl, who I know was there at that meeting, when he was saying, as he was saying that, you had went around and you had sat right in front of him as he was starting to give his little talk there. You were sitting right in front of him, weren't you?
Yeah. So it was difficult because I'm definitely a talk it out kind of person, and I knew that I wasn't going to have an opportunity to speak again. And I wanted to, if he was going to talk smack, I wanted to at least let him be able to talk smack right to my face. So I got up and I moved my seat so I was sitting right in front of him.
Wow. If I could, I want to go back a little bit. You in your testimony, you said you are differently abled. Could you talk a little bit about your disability, and you are still able to competently concealed carry, and how you and what you are able to accomplish, how your ability to concealed carry helps you with your daily life?
Sure, absolutely. So I have a condition that is called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and it is a genetic mutation that causes faulty collagen production. So I can't run. I can walk short distances. Sometimes I need a mobility aid. Sometimes I don't. I quite literally wouldn't be able to throw a punch to defend myself. I would probably break or at least severely injure myself. I would probably do more damage to myself than to a potential attacker if I were to try to physically fight somebody off. So I do need tools of self-defense. And furthermore, when somebody is looking for a person that they think is going to be an easy target, why wouldn't they pick somebody that they can see is unable to move around easily or quickly? Why wouldn't they target somebody walking with a cane that probably can't run away? So I do exercise my right to concealed carry. Thankfully, I've never had to, use my firearm, but I do train. My husband is a Marine Corps veteran. He was a combat weapons instructor, so he really enjoys going to the range with me and just really helping me work with the ability that I do have and to safely and effectively be able to use my handgun.
All right. I want to get a couple comments in here. Pete over at Gun Websites says, what was the reaction from the people there when he said that? Were you able to get the reaction of the people around you, Lauren?
It was crickets. You could have heard a pin drop. There was absolute dead silence, and I'll be honest, I was so focused on maintaining my composure because after that testimony, I'm sure you could hear my voice breaking. I was trying really, really hard not to be overcome by emotion because it was really scary to get up there and talk about that potential abduction. That was a story that I had not really even told members of my family. Nobody really knew about that. So it was really very stressful, and I was focusing on just keeping it together. So I did happen to notice that there was honestly, it was kind of always like nothing going on in the room. People were just sitting there like.
Yeah, wow.
Well, I have to say that when he in effect called you out with "Don't glare at me," you know, I'm not talking about you. Oh yeah, Mr. Jackwagon, you were talking specifically about you and your testimony. I mean, anybody with any kind of common sense at all could see exactly where he was going with that. And your statement that says, I carry because I don't want to be harmed, I mean, that is so eloquent. It really is the statement. I'm not looking for trouble. I'm looking to go home, and this tool helps me go home. And the fact that he couldn't see that, and when he said, I hate to hear about these things, well, we hate to have to tell you those things, and we hate even worse for them to have happened to become the story to have to tell it. So our goal is to stop the story before it ever becomes a story again, Mr. Jackwagon. So, okay, I yield, and she was so cool, I yield my time. So I'm going to yield mine back to Charlie.
All right, I am going to take I'm going to take what you just said about him, and I'm going to take it one step further. I don't want to say he was talking about Lauren. I wanted to say how he's got the victim mentality where she goes and sits in front of him, and he's intimidated by this. Like, that to me sends a message like, holy moly, dude, you do think she's one of the crazy people that carries a gun, even though it's not the case, obviously, because she's passed background checks and whatnot. But I think he wanted to lay it out there that she is one of the people that he needs to be concerned with. I got a bunch of notes here. He said he's concerned about being in the chamber. Do they not have security in the chamber?
Yeah, and Spartan 6 is right there with you. He says he was intimidated by Lauren sitting in front of him. Absolutely.
Well, who wouldn't be? I mean, Lauren had such amazing hair going that day. Of it.
She's got on her teal shirt. She's got the tattoos. She looks badass.
She had it all going on.
Yeah.
Let's talk to John here. John, what you got?
It was almost like he was afraid that she was going to come up there and beat him over the head with the cane. Which would not have been a bad idea, but nonetheless. I mean, I was going to say...
Off Facebook, John, come on!
So my question is... I was going to say, were there any of the demanding moms there with their red shirts?
Yes, there was. And matter of fact, so I was the last person to testify, and somebody from Moms Demand Action did testify prior to me. And one of the comments that they made was that they basically insinuated that people who have been victims of domestic abuse and assault shouldn't, for lack of paraphrasing, shouldn't be forced to be around firearms. So that was kind of why I had started my testimony the way that I did, by taking their point and turning it on its head and saying, hey, listen, I'm one of those people that you're speaking on behalf of, and I highly value my right to carry a firearm. Please don't speak for me.
That was a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. again, going back to what this guy said, if he really thinks there's crazy people that are out there, wouldn't he want to have the ability to be able to protect himself?
Nope.
Doesn't make any sense.
Or have some card-carrying good people around him to help protect him.
Right. Obviously, we saw that he's chicken. He's a chicken and a fraidy cat here. Yeah. And listen, we all know that the people that go through the permitting process, that go through a class, I know Arizona's constitutional carry, but the people that go through the permitting process aren't criminals. The people that buy guns from gun stores and pass background checks aren't criminals. These aren't the people he needs to worry about. And he came right out and said there are people in this world that are pretty crazy, and he doesn't want to be able to protect himself from them. What?
If it's I've got to get a couple comments in here, and we're late for break, so I'm going to get a couple comments in here real quick, and then we got to run to break. Lauren, can you hang out for one more segment with us?
Absolutely.
All right, I want to get these comments in here real quick. Terry says, empowered women scare the heck out of weak men. I tell you what, Terry, empowered women scare the heck out of strong men. My wife scares the hell out of me from time to time. So,
she scares all of us. Don't worry. We're not alone.
Okay. And then, let me see here. Spartan 6 says, he's the kind of guy that would run if his family got attacked. I don't want to say that. I'm just saying that I don't want him in charge of anything. He is somebody that would absolutely. I get the impression of he's somewhat like Joe Biden. He's got a $4,500 over and under shotgun that was given to him, but because he's got a shotgun, he occasionally goes hunts birds. Every once in a while, unsuccessfully, he supports the Second Amendment. That's the impression I get of this guy. So,
right.
I want to step aside to break. We need to hear from our good friends over at CNJFO. We will be right back right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
Welcome back to the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I really need to go back and recut that ad simply because I look much better with a hat on than I do without a hat on. And that was immediately after I had my stroke and my voice has recovered a little bit, as my ability to speak has. I go back and I listen to that now and I'm like, ooh, that doesn't sound so good. So maybe I'll go back and recut that. But at any rate...
No, you need to listen to that and say, ooh, look how far I've come.
Absolutely.
Lauren, I want to get back to your interview and this. If I could, what has happened with this bill since your testimony? It's been about 3 weeks since your testimony. What has happened since then with this bill?
So it did end up passing that day in the Senate. 5 for it, 3 against along party lines, and to my knowledge, it is supposed to be making its way to Governor Ducey's desk to be signed. I believe, actually, no, I lied. That was the second read, so it had to go through a third read, and then it's on its way to be signed by the governor, which I will continue to lobby directly for the governor to also sign it into law.
Okay. Go ahead, Charlie.
I just want to say this, and if this can happen in Arizona, it can happen anywhere else. Arizona seems to be a pretty free state. If the anti-gun folks aren't going anywhere, I try to emphasize this to as many people as I can. They're not going anywhere, and they still want to come after our rights, and they're chipping away at them, one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that happens in Arizona, think about what's happening in your state there, Charlie, because you do not live in free America.
This is, yeah.
I mean, one of the things that senator said that was right, he did actually make a statement that was correct, and it says you can't run around scared all the time. And yet our answer is so different than his answer. Our answer is, look, we prepare so that we don't have to be fearful, we don't have to be scared, and that we can go home. Where he would say, oh, well, if you're going to be that scared, stay home and live in your basement. Well, we're not willing to do that. So we want to be our own first responders. And as you see by the fact that Indiana just passed constitutional carry, state by state, pro-gun laws are passing all over the place. And these anti-gun Dems are losing their minds about it. So have you heard anything more from anybody, Lauren, in the fact that I know you were on Cam Edwards' show. I know you're going to be on my show on Sunday night. So the fact that you're getting this kind of press all over the place, is there any response that you're hearing within your state on that?
No, actually, I was discussing it on Twitter, and I had tagged the Arizona Senate Democrats' Twitter handle, and I also tagged Senator Contreras' Twitter, and he blocked me. And now he has continued to block everybody I know that has commented in support of me and calling him out on what he was saying. Because what he said didn't only apply to me. It's not just about me. What he said applies to every single person, man, woman, otherwise every religion, race, whatever, that chooses to arm themselves for whatever reason, because it is their right to. He is talking about every single person. And to the point that Charlie had made about this happening in Arizona, Arizona has its own version of a Second Amendment. So yes, if this is happening here and nobody's paying attention, it can happen anywhere.
So, John, maybe you can answer this. I thought that public officials could not block anyone on Twitter, that they weren't allowed to. Remember they gave Marjorie Taylor Greene so much grief?
And it could be only federal. I'm not sure. But, the 14th Amendment does bring the First Amendment down to the states. What is I've always found interesting, they want to have a debate about guns, but when you try to debate, they block you.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down your First Amendment
by Shannon Watts. I'm blocked by Shannon Watts.
Exactly that, Charlie.
But she's not elected. That's the difference.
That's true.
And
That's a very good
being blocked
point.
by Shannon Watts is a badge of honor. Being blocked by your representative is an offense.
All right, well, I need to step it up
on
Twitter.
that, Amanda. I did look into it, and there is precedence that if an elected official uses their account to promote their political ideology and whatever, that they should not be blocking constituents. So there is precedence set for this legally, and there have been lawsuits that have either been successful or not, but essentially it can be seen as being illegal because his account is used to promote himself and his policies as a senator. So what he did is wrong. And to the point that Charlie made, once again, not only is he wanting to suppress the Second Amendment of his constituents, but now also moving up to the First Amendment.
I want to get a couple. Go ahead.
I would be pitching an entire new round of media to everybody that's talking First Amendment stuff.
I want to get a couple comments in here real quick. Dana, our writer, says, he said he's a Democrat. Common sense and logic are not his best attributes. And we're having a great comment over on the side. Spartan 6 said, add having a spine to that list, Dana. And then he also said, if I have a gun to protect me, why would I be scared? Although I will say this, I have been a daily carrier. I carry pants on, gun on every day. There have been times in the past several years, even though I'm carrying, I have been startled and I've been scared a time or two. Not to the point where I didn't think I could handle what was coming up, but having a gun on you does not automatically make you safe everywhere you go and everything that you do.
Wait a minute. Wait, it's not a force field?
No. It's
You know, the other thing is, not only does it not make you, it's not the magic talisman that puts a force field around you, it also doesn't make you a crazy person that's going to go shoot it up, or going to your mall or bus stop or wherever. We've had a couple shootings this past weekend. It doesn't turn you into one of those people either.
Right.
And as Amanda said, these people are, these people are losing their minds, and I say it shouldn't take that long.
Yeah.
Now,
how many studies have we seen? I was going to say, you had brought up about, I think Charlie brought up how law-abiding concealed carriers are, especially those of us who went through the process, have a permit, like Lauren. We tend to be even more law-abiding than law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
There have been studies in multiple states where concealed carriers are less likely to have committed a crime than an actual sworn law enforcement officer. That's my point.
Absolutely. And there was an incident in Philadelphia a few weeks ago. Shockingly, it wasn't a carjacking, but it was a dog that was mauling a 5-year-old boy, and there was someone they called it a Good Samaritan, which kind of works me up a little bit, because I think they should not call them Good Samaritans. I think they should call them armed citizens. But they said there was a man that was carrying a gun, and I hate the phrase, he was carrying a legal gun, because to me a legal gun's made by Glock and Smith & Wesson and Ruger and Sig Sauer. It's not something that somebody made in their backyard or in jail. But they said that he was carrying a legal gun, and he was a Good Samaritan, and he shot the dog and saved the boy's life. Well, this doesn't get nearly as much play as all of the other stories where people use a gun in committing a crime. And this is, these are the people that pass background checks and that are law-abiding, and maybe take some extra training and learn a little bit more about when you can and when you can't. And
All right, we are just about up on the time we have. Lauren, if you could tell us a little bit about LaurenLiberty.com, please.
Sure. So that's actually a new thing. I ended up just making a website when all of this started sort of going down, and I had written an opinion piece about what happened to explain, because the clip that went viral only shows a little bit of my testimony. And, people were leaving comments, oh, why is she carrying a gun if she's so scared? I never said I was scared. You guys heard my full testimony here on this show. I never said I was scared. That was just implied by Contreras. So anyway, I wanted somewhere to publish that, and I kind of just made the website to put everything, all of my interviews and articles, and I also do some like pinup modeling and stuff for fun when I'm not doing political things. So I kind of wanted to have somewhere to have my activism and my modeling and all things Lauren Liberty.
Very cool. Well, Lauren, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday afternoon / evening Arizona time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really an honor to talk with you all.
All right. Folks, we are going to step aside for another break. When we come back, we've got to get to our news segment, and that does include that big story out of Indiana. We'll be right back, folks, right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
Welcome back to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Holy cow, what a guest. I just before we get into news, I want to kind of go over that again and say I'm really sorry she had to be subjected to that senator's stuff, but she kept her cool, and even through the ringer she's going through now through the media, she's very articulate and fairly gracious, and I think she's doing a great job.
Yeah, I think she comes across as a very stand-up girl. So this is it's going to be interesting to see where she goes next, because it looks like she could go anywhere and do anything, because they're not going to stump her.
Yep. Absolutely. So, breaking news being what breaking news is, when show notes were written this afternoon, it still hadn't happened, but we can confirm that constitutional carry is going to be the law of the land in Indiana. The comments have been going nuts on it on the let's see here. Greg also on the Facebook side had it. We've been getting comment, and there have been so many about Lauren that I only can get a few about constitutional carry up. But yeah, constitutional carry will be going through in Indiana. Congratulations, Hoosiers.
Number 24.
Yeah. I've got a statement here from him.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, Governor Holcomb said, HEA 1296, which I've signed today, entrusts Hoosiers who can lawfully carry a handgun to responsibly do so within our state. It's important to note that if a person is prohibited under state or federal laws from possessing a firearm before this law goes into effect, the person will be prosecuted. And if a prohibited person has a firearm, he or she can be prosecuted. It doesn't. If you're a bad person or a prohibited person, the law, constitutional carry, still doesn't give you the right to carry.
Right, you're still a prohibited person.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
If you're a felon, you still can't carry.
No.
Right.
So there are a lot of felons who are like, well, when does this felony roll off? They don't get it.
Well, I only have to wait 10 years, right?
No, that's for beating up a cop, but not beating up your mom. That's a different thing.
All right. Let's see here. I got to be honest. I've been so wrapped up in this Lauren thing, the interview, and trying to get that audio cleaned up for the two pieces of those 2 pieces of video I ran. I haven't really read through a lot of the news stories. Let's see here. As of June 23rd, 2021, the Biden administration directed the ATF to start revoking the licenses of firearms dealers for even as minor infractions as paperwork violations. The new policy of zero tolerance unless extraordinary circumstances are presented would result in the ATF revoking licenses for the first violation for 1, transferring a firearm to a prohibited person, 2, failing to conduct a background check, 3, falsifying records, 4, failing to respond to a trace request. 5, refusing to permit ATF to conduct an inspection. Also, these may result in revocation. 1, account for firearms. 2, verify document and buyer eligibility. 3, maintain records for successful tracing. Or 4, report multiple handgun sales. Despite decades of agency practice, these changes were not published for comment or in the Federal Register. I don't know of a single ATF, a single FFL that would willingly transfer a firearm to a prohibited person.
If they do, they're a dirty gun shop.
Yes.
That's the thing. They're breaking the law at that point. And I'm not sure I'm opposed to people who are arming felons who are not allowed to own a gun, and for that gun shop to enable them. I think that is an egregious crime against the Second Amendment and against every law-abiding gun owner in the country.
Yeah, and I think the key thing about the bill is that it says willingly. In egregious case, we had one here in North Carolina recently. A guy was not a dealer, but he was a state highway patrolman. And the highway patrolmen in North Carolina are pretty much the pinnacle of the law enforcement. They go through very hard training. They are the ultimate. We had a highway patrolman knowingly transferring firearms to felons. He's in jail now, but nonetheless, it just boggles the mind.
No, the only one on that list that I could see how that could potentially be a paperwork and clerical issue is the failure to report multiple handgun sales, because that's an additional form in addition to the 4473. So you finish the purchase, you finish the background check, you do all of that, and then while you're doing your paperwork, either that minute or that evening, you fill out the multiple purchase form and you mail it to the sheriff, and you mail it. There's like 3 different copies that go in 3 different directions that you have to pull out and do. And it doesn't involve the customer. It just is paperwork after the fact. And so that of all of the things is the one that I could see where you're doing things and then you move to the next customer and the next customer and don't get back to that issue.
To amplify what Amanda just said, it's important to realize it's not selling 2 handguns to somebody right now. It's 2 handguns over the span of a week.
Right.
So if I came in on Monday and bought something, and you have a different clerk on the desk on Friday, and I bought another handgun, that would be supposed to have been reported as a multiple handgun sale. And if you're in the border state Southwest, if you buy 2 semi-automatic firearms that shoot a cartridge larger than 22 long rifle, they're supposed to report that as well.
Right.
So, is there anything smaller than 22 long rifle?
17.
22.
17
HMR. Okay, all right, I get it, but is it practical?
Have you ever been shot? Well, not been shot with a 17 HMR, but have you ever shot one?
I have not fired a 17 HMR. I thought about buying some at the store because they've had some, but anything over a 22? Come on, man, really?
Yeah.
It seems a little ridiculous, I think.
Loophole-ish.
Yeah. I did this, Amanda, you were just talking about buying guns for people that can't buy them. I did this with one of my friends a number of years ago. We were talking about background checks and all this.
You did what? Are you testifying?
Would you let me finish?
Don't buy for the other guy.
I was like, shut up! Don't say it! Don't say it!
This is what I did. We went to the gun store. I told him, I said, listen, if you think background checks don't happen, I'm going to give you 10 $100 bills. We're going to go to a gun store. You're going to buy the gun. You can buy a $1,000 gun. You can buy a $500 gun and keep $500, or you can buy a $200 gun and keep $800. I don't care. If you think stores don't do background checks, I'm going to give you $1,000 and you can go buy yourself a gun. I want to stand next to you when they do this. And he did not take me up on this. So I was really trying to make him put my money where his mouth is, and he didn't want to do it, because I'm like, well, why would you not want to do it? The only thing you're going to do is win. I'm going to be out $1,000. Why not do this, man?
Mike over on the YouTube side, and for some reason we're not getting the comments from Facebook. I know they're coming. I just can't get them in my broadcast software. We had problems with Facebook during the bullet, but Mike says if they've been freed and paid their debt to society, they should be allowed to have a firearm. If they're a danger to society, keep them locked up. If not, they should have all their rights, in my opinion. Mike, I am right there with you. I wholeheartedly agree. If you're allowed to be among the public, you still have the right to self-defense.
So I think I'm concerned about the minor paperwork violations. If you filled out something incorrectly, or if you write in cursive and then you write in print, is that going to be a violation? And is this going to be a zero tolerance? Like, we're throwing the whole book at you because you drew a lowercase L rather than a capital L?
Well, and the other thing I want to bring up, at the beginning, that was as of June 23rd, 21. Now we're in the middle of March, so we're 9 months after that. How many FFLs have gotten in trouble? I haven't heard of any. So
shocking.
But there's always some, and they just don't. They just quietly fade out into the woodwork.
I think the news is that the vast majority are doing it right.
Well, these are egregious. Really egregious offenses, most of them that are listed, except for the multiple handgun sales, multiple purchase form. The thing, Charlie, that happens with when we had a gun shop, if somebody would, abbreviate the state of Ohio to OH and a dot, they found that as a paperwork offense. And so they checked it and would tell us, and then we had to call the guy to come back. We couldn't fix it. We had to call the guy to come back to fix it, right? So there was that. But on our record, it was that we had 6 paperwork offenses. And so when they're reporting them later, the fact that some dude wrote OH dot instead of OHIO was considered a paperwork offense is just bunk.
It is. I'm with you. It is complete ridiculousness. I mean, this is really seems like they are lowering the standards so they can get more people. Yeah, reaching. That's a great way to put it.
Well, it's easy to make you look bad, then, is what it is, because then the court of public opinion is that later they come back to me and then they beat me up about missing a report of a multiple handgun sale. They pull it and they're like, on the last 10 inspections, they had between 6 and 10, paperwork violations each and every time, and this is just the culmination of shoddy, slipshod paperwork. It just helped them make you look incompetent.
Right now, you're one of those rogue dealers that's
one of those, right?
Yeah.
But I will say, based on the multiple handgun sales, check with your gun shop and find out if they have a layaway or they will hold until day 8. That's my standard. I absolutely refuse to allow a multiple handgun sale form to go in because it does not get kept in the same amount of, perceived security and privacy that the 4473 did. Now that the ATF is actually entering all my firearms into their 1 billion records that they illegally are not allowed to have. But the multiple purchase form, I refuse to let that happen. And so even though I'm what they consider a super user, 17 guns or more is the number for that, just in case you want to know. Just saying.
I finally get to be above average. I love it.
Super user. But yeah, so it's just one piece of paperwork that because it's mailed to the sheriff's department. There's nothing that says that he has to keep it confidential. And you know how some of those people are.
All right. I want to get one more story, and we're getting really close to the end of the segment. I want to try for once to keep close to time today.
Bail.
Yeah, right. I want to get one more story in here. Amanda did talk about it on her show yesterday, but I'm really big on good news. And Kel-Tec, the news hit over the weekend. They got an order for $200,000 worth of rifles from a Ukrainian person. Now, it turns out when they made the rifles, and my understanding is once they were made, you can't get a hold of the person. Well, we're going to just donate the rifles to the Ukrainian military then. And so my understanding is now that when the purchase was made, that they were paid for time, materials, and stuff. So it's not a total donation. Kel-Tec was paid some for it. They didn't, out of the goodness of their heart, make $200,000 worth of rifles, but the Ukrainian military is getting a lot of hardware from Kel-Tec for the defense of Ukraine, and I think that's a great deal.
Yeah, where the city that the either the company or the private citizen, and I assume it couldn't have been a private citizen, purchased this $200,000 for the guns, that city is under siege. Mm-hmm. And so when they reached that, it took them 4 months. It took them 4 months to be able to get the paperwork through the Ukrainian government and the United States government through ITAR and all of that to ship them. And when they went to ship them, that's when they couldn't get a hold of him for who's on the other side to receive it. So it took them 4 days to switch who was going to be the recipient, because now it's just Joe Schmo versus Igor Schmo, as opposed to, going to the Ukraine versus some other country. So I think it's kind of interesting.
I hate to sound like Rob Campbell here, but if this order was made 4 months ago, who knew what was going on back then?
If you look, a lot of the companies manufacture guns that aren't allowed to be sold in the United States. They manufacture and ship overseas all day, all the time. And so there's a lot of guns that are going to a lot of places. I was just at a company in Ohio that has this entire lineup of guns that are skidded and sitting there waiting. And in some cases, it takes like 2 years to get the ITAR approval. So they get 50% of the money down, and then it sits and waits, and then gets approved and shipped. And there's a steady shipment of firearms that are traveling the world.
Well, and just because they're made here, and just because it's a company we all know, Kel-Tec, that doesn't mean these things don't have the giggle switch.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that these are all civilian semi-auto rifles.
Right.
Yeah, and the good news with the sub 2000s is they'll take a full-size Glock mag, and you can rock and roll with them.
Mm-hmm. And you can fold them in half. You can smuggle them easier.
and put them right in the backpack. I was doing a class up in New Hampshire, and the guy that was hosting the class pulled out his laptop. He's like, "Hey, look what I bought." Pulled out a Sub 2000. I'm like, "That's pretty cool. I think I might have to get one of those." So that was pretty sweet.
Do you have to move to another state to be able to have one?
You're ready for the ridiculousness of occupied territory. It can't be an assault weapon. It's an approved weapon, and because it's a blowback version, and it's not like gas operated or anything like this. So it works very much like a handgun. So it was okay to have.
All right.
Hey.
The ridiculousness that I have to know. I was totally bowled over when we were, I think it was the Mag 40 class in Sioux Falls last year, and we were talking about high cap mags, and Amanda's like, "Well, what does a Glock high cap mag look like?" I'm like, "You don't know? It's got a U notch rather than the square notch, and then the newest ones have the ambidextrous magazine releases." And you guys are all like, "That's nothing we need to be concerned about."
We're like,
why would we need to know this? They're just magazines where we're from.
Right, out in free America, we don't even look at our mags. We just shoot them.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I every time I go someplace, I really feel like Charlie Brown in the Halloween special where he's like, we got candy, we got chocolates, we got this. I got a box of rocks. Like I got low capacity magazines and I can't have new guns. Blah blah blah. Ugh.
All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and step off to break. We've got to get to our DGU segment, folks. Hang on. We're going to be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any trainers or any other. Doggone it. I've said this 617 times. You'd think I would get it right. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions, not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Who wants to take this one?
I will take it.
All right, go ahead, Charlie.
All right, Minneapolis, Minnesota. A video camera notified a 53-year-old woman and her 26-year-old son when a 30-year-old would-be home intruder jumped the 6-foot fence in their backyard. When he found the door locked, he broke into the detached garage through the service door. The homeowner armed herself with a handgun and told her son to retrieve a rifle from the basement in case he tried to get through an egress window. The homeowner and her son yelled to get the man to leave, and she fired 4 warning shots in an effort to encourage him to leave. He left the garage, but refused to leave the backyard and came towards the pair and reached for his waistband. They both saw this and fired 1 shot from the handgun and 1 shot from the rifle. The homeowner then called 911, and when officers arrived, she led them to the wounded man lying face down in the backyard. He was declared dead once he reached the medical center. The officers found the handgun on the kitchen table and the rifle on the main floor. They found a spent rifle casing in the house and 3 pistol casings near the rear deck. They also retrieved the home surveillance images and searched for any other evidence. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office said they will not charge the woman or her son in the shooting. The 2 did not have a duty to retreat because they were at the threshold of the patio door and had valid claims of self-defense because they were in fear of bodily harm and was subjectively real and objectively reasonable. There we go.
I'm going to jump in on this one first. Warning shots. I've said this a million times. Here comes 1 million number 1. Warning shots. Never, ever, ever, ever a great idea. Nothing says, I don't need to shoot you more than a warning shot does. However, once this guy reached for his waistband, that's called a furtive movement, and that you've already wasted your warning shots. You've got less capacity than you did before. Now I agree with both mom and son taking the one real shot they both did. It sounds like, we don't have confirmation, but it sounds like both mom and son hit the mark. Sounds like both rounds did their job. Good on them both. I just, please do not ever take a warning shot. You got a handgun with somewhere between 5 and 17 rounds. You're going to give up 3 to 4 of those rounds just to try and prove that you're willing to pull a trigger? And in this case, she fired 3 warning shots. The guy still reached for his waistband. The warning shots did no good.
There was actually a story up in New Hampshire probably 4 or 5 years ago about somebody that fired a couple of warning shots in their yard, and they ended up getting in trouble for it. So it's not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Right.
And those you could have. I was going to interrupt and say you had 5 to 10 rounds where you could shoot somebody, but
you get POW, right? Some number.
Right.
You know, the interesting part is that even after he heard the fact that they had a gun, I mean, so the warning shots, he heard they had a gun. They didn't have to say they had a gun. He heard they had a gun, and he still went for his waistband. Not exactly the most prime, deep thinker in the community that evening.
It could either also be that he had been shot at by homeowners in the past and they never hit him, and he just said, it's an old woman, I'm going anyway.
There's one reason there's one reason she made it to be an old woman.
Well, you know what? It could be that, maybe he thought she was shooting at him when she fired the 3 warning shots. Well, she missed 3 times. I'm going to scare her off. I'm going to reach for my waistband. Oops.
He was wrong.
One part is actually kind of interesting. This is out of Minneapolis. So the fact that even in oh-so-blue Minneapolis,
right,
the district attorney said, nah, we're not going to prosecute, says something.
Yeah, and I think that there's more people who are taking up arms in an area where they were scared. This is that. I agree with Spartan 6. I agree. The click of moving the selector from safe to fire is warning enough. That, or you rack your pump shotgun. The is, we're good to go.
Yeah. However, I'm not going to rely on that sound. I'm just going to the warning shot is the one to center mass. That's my warning shot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you guys seen that cartoon of these guys? It's they're in the military someplace, and one of the guys says, "Give them a warning shot," and he shoots the dude in the head, and he says, "I told you to give him a warning shot." He said, "I just warned all of his friends."
I have seen that.
Yep. Or in the other ones.
All right, John, you want to take our next one out of South Carolina?
Sure, the next one comes from Oconee County, South Carolina. No good deed goes unpunished. A man and a woman were on a pontoon boat on Lake Kiowee when they saw a man and a woman who'd been on a jet ski in the water and in distress. Neither one was wearing a life jacket. The couple drove the pontoon over and got the pair out of the water. The jet ski was nearby, but still running in circles. The rescued man became agitated and began assaulting the couple who had just gotten him out of the lake. According to investigators, he may have wanted to go back to get his jet ski. The woman from the jet ski attempted to de-escalate the situation and push the man back into the lake. After he got back on the boat a second time, he started a new assault on the man. Fearing for his and his wife's life, he shot his attacker in the chest. The coroner's office and the Oconee County Sheriff presented the evidence to the 10th Circuit Solicitor's Office, which determined that the case was self-defense and based on evidence. I actually heard this. This is one of our local stations, so I heard about this. Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to say on this one, do you think there was a little bit of alcohol or maybe other intoxicating substances involved?
Yeah.
Chances are good.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody's pulling your bacon out of the fire, don't push them.
I think it's great. The first thing that the lady did was pushed him back in the lake. Like, we used the defensive tools we have. She had her hands.
Cool.
She pushed him back in the lake. Right.
Yeah. And that was the lady that he was with. Yeah. Not even the...
Oh. Well, a couple comments from...
Kiowee is actually pretty cool because it's coming out of the mountains.
I want to get a couple comments from Dana in here. Dana, by the way, is our writer. He says, I saw that the couple on the boat were older. He said, like 80s older.
Wow. So easy to spare G4. You got a young guy, you got an old guy, young guy that's drunk. You just saved his bacon, and he wants to come back and cause a problem.
Yep.
And then Terry over on the YouTube side says, mine don't make that click from safe to fire. Mine just fire. And Terry, I'm going to tell you, on my firearms that have a safety to go, that goes click from safe to fire, mine are very quiet. I've got my weapons very well lubed, very well cleaned. You got to have really darn good, better hearing than mine to hear. I feel it when I push it, but I don't hear it so much. So, all right. I think that's the end of our. Any more comments on these DGUs?
No.
Well, I just looked it up on this. Go ahead, Charlie.
No. You looked it up. I didn't.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it was kind of unusual. It was on a Tuesday afternoon.
I mean, look, these old couples got nothing to do.
Well,
they don't have anything to do.
It's the drunk guy on the jet ski on a Tuesday with no job.
Yeah.
Color me jealous. He's got a jet ski and he's drinking and enjoying himself.
He's got a jet ski, a girlfriend, and
wow!
Thanks for the salt, Amanda. That was great.
All right.
So I got a quick question. What are the laws about carrying a gun on a lake? Or I've had a couple people ask me about carrying on a boat when they go out to the ocean, and I have no idea.
I honestly think it depends on the lake the state is in, or what's the ocean, the state the ocean is bordering, and
yeah, it's specific to state laws because Ohio Ohio, when they first passed their concealed carry, said that there was no reason to have a gun on a boat unless you were duck hunting, even a houseboat. Wow. So it took a while to clean that up. So, John, what about your state? Do you know?
I have never heard one that says that you could not. And in South Carolina, I would think it's the same. They did just start allowing open carry in South Carolina if you have a concealed carry permit. We in North Carolina do laugh at the Palmetto State about that, but because ours is a constitutional right to open carry, that is.
What I'm wondering about is if you are on a boat and you go 11 miles and 10 yards off of the coast, you're in international waters.
Yeah.
Then what? Yeah.
Then what? Can you then drag out of the hull
something with the giggle
I
switch?
knew a lot of sailors out of Florida that always carried like a stainless steel shotgun or stainless steel handguns because of pirates in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Not the Johnny Depp movie, but the real thing.
But real quick, have you seen the ones that are in the little floaty thing?
Like Mossberg makes the
Mariner or something. Yeah, I think it's
the Mariner, or the Just in Time or something that comes in a tube. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's in a waterproof tube. It's a stainless steel gun. It breaks down. It's really, one thinks one might need that.
Well, Clint Eastwood's got that new movie coming out, and the catchphrase is, "Get off my pontoon."
All right. Well, on that note, we've got one more segment to go to. So why don't we take our last break? We're going to hear from the folks at JPFO. When we come back, we'll talk about what's going on in our media, and we'll shut the show down. We'll get to that right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police! Search warrant! No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
All right, I want to get a couple more comments in here that came in as I was looking at show notes rather than looking at comments. Dana says, Michigan has to be careful because they have a border with Canada if you're on a boat. Yeah, and Canada, as we talked about on the bullet about an hour and a half ago, they've got some unusual firearms laws. Going back to the interview segment, and I think that this person may be watching that on delay, and then their comment came in now, but I bet this politician was double masked and 4 boosters. Okay. And Terry, Texas, you can have firearm on watercraft, falls under the Motorist Protection Act. Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought. Is it's state by state, so you have to know your specific state's laws.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
South Dakota, we don't have a lot of firearms laws left. There are a couple, but we're pretty free. So let's do what we normally do at this point of the show. Go around the horn, and John, I'm going to start with you. Tell us what's going on with No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money.
My long-running series called Every Picture Tells a Story has been running since about 2011. I just ran parts 14 and 15 to show graphically the impact of Alabama and Ohio adopting permitless or constitutional carry. Now approximately the same percentage of Americans live in permitless or constitutional carry states as live in may-issue states. Additionally, Governor Eric Holcomb of Indiana just signed their constitutional carry bill into law within the last couple of hours. So expect Every Picture Tells a Story Part 16 to come out very shortly. In other news, Ukrainians are resourceful, and their auto mechanics are converting Russian tank machine guns that they've taken off of destroyed tanks into infantry weapons by adding stocks, bipods, and a new trigger mechanism. It's really kind of interesting what what's the joke now? Ukrainian farmers have the fourth largest army force in the world. That and more is out at onlygunsandmoney.com. And
if I could, real quick, I've seen. We've all seen pictures of Toyota pickup trucks in third world countries with the machine guns mounted on them. There's a picture going around social media that is just, I see it everywhere. Somebody took a BMW convertible and mounted a machine gun in the back of that thing, and apparently is driving it around in Ukraine. I don't know what the practicality of that thing is, because you kind of have to stand up to fire the machine gun. I don't know how practical that is, but it's there.
Probably not as loud as some of the other vehicles, That way at least you don't have a top.
And you're probably quicker shooting from that than from, a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Get some speed up. Hard to track.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Amanda, Women for Gun Rights on Friday nights on OpsLens. What's going on there?
It's going like gangbusters. This past week I had Stephanie Widener on, and man, is she interesting. And so I'm trying to line up a guest for Friday. If not, I will run a show that I just recorded, which is Julie Ferris out of California. And again, just watching these women's journeys of what they've done and how they've become Second Amendment advocates is just it's well worth the time to get to know them. I just love it. And then Eye on the Target Radio is on Sunday nights, and we are both on radio. Then we're working on our podcast. I think I've got the podcast thing fixed so that now you can find us where podcasts happen. We'll see. I've got somebody testing that out. So because when I look, I find us. When anybody else looks, they don't. But I think you can find us now. And in our OpsLens show, in 18 hours, we had 6,700 views on OpsLens. It's going like gangbusters. Charlie, what about you?
That's awesome. Congrats. I have episode 141 of Riding Shotgun coming out tomorrow. The pastor on the show is Val Evans. She is a wife and a mother that somebody broke into her house at 10:30 at night, and she shot this guy twice in self-defense. And from that, she parlayed it into becoming an instructor, certified through the NRA, and working with the Well-Armed Woman, which is now Armed Women of America. So that's pretty cool. I've been making some videos for AmmoLand News for their YouTube channel. I have been repurposing the Riding Shotguns for the Armed Lifestyle magazine, which came out last week, so it's a free online magazine everyone should check out. And I've been doing a show with Matt Mallory from Meet the Pressers, and we're doing a show this week with Rob Pincus. We're doing it check out our YouTube channels. We're doing it at 8 p.m. at Eastern Time. And I'm keeping myself pretty busy.
Sounds like
Paul,
it.
Yeah, I'm doing the duck thing. I'm pedaling as fast as I can.
All righty. I'm just going to encourage everybody, join me 5 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters, even though everybody's going to argue with me at here. Join me 5 p.m. Central Time every day this week. Tomorrow, I guarantee you, we're going to be continuing to talk about Indiana Constitutional Carry State number 24. Every day we'll talk about the latest in Second Amendment news, the news of that day, and and recent news. But keep joining us. We will keep you up to date over on the Polite Society Facebook page and YouTube channel. And by the way, our podcast is growing by leaps and bounds. If you are catching us on the Polite Society podcast, look for the Bullet Podcast. That has been growing hugely. It's a daily. Rob calls his show a little snack food of a podcast for his little 15-minute podcast. Well, that's great. We're not quite a snack food podcast. We're more of a light lunch. It's a 30-minute podcast daily. So come join us for that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for commenting and coming along on the ride with us. We will see you next week. As soon as I can find the right button to get us out of here.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, that does it for the recording, and I know I went off script, folks. I'm sorry for speaking to my folks. I think I'm going to go ahead and shut the streams down. We don't have a whole lot more comments, so for those of you that are still here, thanks again for watching, everybody, and we will